a $699 launch monitor and simulator actually be any good? Well, maybe. This is the Square, and over the course of the last 3 months, there's not a single product I have had more requested to review on this channel than this. So today, that's exactly what we're gonna do. I've had a chance to spend a lot of time with this, and I'm not gonna lie, I've got some thoughts. Both very good and very not so good. So depending on what you are looking for, this may be exactly what you need, or it should be something you should probably stay away from. Let's talk about it. One thing before we go any further, as you probably know, if you click any of the links below, you buy any of the products I talk about, I will get a commission. This is at absolutely no extra cost to you. And I want to be clear, I really don't care if you buy any of these or not. I'm just trying to give you my honest feedback based on my experience to help you find the right products for your needs. So take that for what it's worth. If you think that makes me biased, totally understand. Go do your own research, go buy somewhere else. Don't click any of those links. But if you did get value out of this and you do decide that one of these products is right for you, then it helps out this channel and it allows me to continue making videos like this. So I appreciate that, and let's get to the video. All right, first up, let's talk first impressions. When you open up the box here, there is a lot. It feels like overkill because every single component that comes with the Square has its own nice little box and it all fits together like a nice little puzzle. But you're like, it's just a small little launch monitor. What could be included that needs all of these things? Well, you have the device itself, and you have the remote for the device, and you have the special balls that come with it, and you have the removable battery, which we'll talk about that in a minute, and you've got the swing stick, which we'll also talk about that in a minute. So there's just a lot that comes with this, which on the surface, you're like, cool, more is better, right? Maybe. Once I open up the box for the Square specifically, I gotta say, it doesn't feel super expensive. Yes, it's the cheapest optical launch monitor I know of, so that in and of itself is impressive, but it has this alignment stick that kind of sits in the back, but it doesn't stay, so it's kind of annoying, so I just kind of leave that out because it always falls out. The plastic, it just feels very cheap. Just not super robust build quality. And to that end, something that we'll just point out right now, this is only for indoor use. So if you're looking for a device that you can set up at home, do a simulator, and also take to the range and work on your game, this is not it. This is just indoors. And so right there, that might be a deal breaker for some of you. Fortunately, the setup process for this is super smooth. You download the app, you pair it to the unit, and you're pretty much good to go within 2 minutes. It's very easy and it's very quick. I will say, in trying to use the alignment mode where you use the stick, I didn't actually find that to do anything. It didn't seem like it was actually aligning the unit properly, so that was kind of odd. Entirely possible that was user error, but in the alignment mode, the app didn't seem to be doing anything aside from putting a line in front of the unit, and I wasn't really sure what to do with that. But despite that, setting it up and trying to align just by eye seemed to work great. I didn't have any issues with accuracy that seemed to be due to poor alignment of the unit, so the fact that it was easy to use from that perspective is a win in my book. All right, so before we go any further, let's talk about why this device is actually such a big deal. So if you're new to the world of golf launch monitors, there's essentially two different types of technology that can go into them. So the first is Doppler radar, and the second is optical, which is basically high-speed cameras that track your club movement as opposed to tracking what the ball is doing. Now, up to this point, pretty much all of the units under $1,000 are Doppler radar devices. The Rapsodo MLM2 Pro does have a camera component, but it still sits behind the ball as opposed to a typical optical unit, which you're gonna set right down next to you. One of the benefits of an optical unit that sits next to the ball is it takes up less space. So if you have a small garage or a small room where you're trying to set up a simulator and you don't have 8 feet behind you and 8 feet in front of you to place some of these Doppler units, then something like this is definitely something to consider. And considering most other optical units retail for well over $2,000, it's not hard to see why something like this at $699 is making a pretty big splash. Okay, so what's it like to use the Square launch monitor? Well, the app is generally, fairly bare bones. It's pretty intuitive and pretty easy to get going with it. When you first fire up the app, you're gonna see 5 main modes. You're gonna see driving ranges, closest to the pin, putting, game, and multi-user. And so those are all mostly pretty self-explanatory. Driving range, you have your option between 2 different driving ranges you can choose from. The second one is a closest to the pin game. Putting is a putting game, basically, that allows you to putt. Game mode is where you're actually going to be able to go and play simulated golf. And then there's multi-game, which in all my testing so far has been grayed out, but I assume that's where you go to be able to use third-party software like GS Pro and E6. I will update you on that in a future video. Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to practice with using the driving ranges. Overall, I was actually really impressed with the user experience when you were using the device itself. The first driving range is one that's kind of cool. You got some boats out to the left and you got a big yacht out to the right. And if you pay attention to it, you'll notice that they actually are going up and down with the waves, which is kind of a cool touch that I wasn't expecting. When it comes to the golf itself, the layout is very clean, very easy to use. You've got all of your ball data across the bottom, and then you've got your club data along the right. That is one of the things that is cool about this particular unit is that it does have club data. For instance, the outgoing Bushnell Launch Pro, for $2,000, you could get their ball-only optical launch monitor, and it was an extra $1,500 if you wanted to get club data on that same unit. So the fact that for $700 you get ball data and a little bit of club data as well, I mean, that's pretty impressive. How accurate it is, that's a little bit more up for debate, and we'll talk about that later on. When it comes to metrics for ball data, you get ball speed, direction, angle, spin rate, spin axis, apex, carry, run, and total. And when it comes to club data points, you're getting swing path, face angle, dynamic loft, and angle of attack. I'm especially impressed with the fact it includes angle of attack because even the SkyTrack Plus, which costs, I don't know, like almost 4 times as much, doesn't include that, which is kind of a weird omission on their part, but I digress. While you're on the driving range, the app is super easy to use. It's very easy to change what club you're using. It's very easy to see all the metrics, regardless of whether or not you want club data, which is along the right-hand side, or all the ball data, which is along the bottom. And then if you don't necessarily care about seeing your ball flight, that shot tracer, and the actual range, there's a data mode that you can easily toggle where it's gonna give you all your metrics in a grid, and it's gonna make it a lot easier to kind of visualize what your club data is doing. But here's where I start to have a problem with the Square. For as great as it is to use it in real time, if you want to go back and look at any of your shots, if you want to compare shots, if you want to star shots, if you want to see trends, if you want to be able to group shots or any of that, you can't do it. As far as I've been able to tell, there's nothing within the app that saves any of your shot data. So if you're looking to compare and contrast past sessions, if you want to see your progress, if you want to see a dispersion chart, you can't do any of that. Pretty much you hit a shot, and then once you hit the next shot, that previous one is gone, and there's nothing you can do with that data. And for me, that seems like just such a wildly big miss. This seems like a fundamental part of what a launch monitor is used for. You're using it for practice. You're trying to improve your game, and so to not be able to go back and see any of your data, like, that's just odd to me. And this is especially true considering there's not a built-in screen. So you have to use the app in order to use this. So the fact that you're already setting all that up, you would expect it to just be able to easily save some of that data. And the fact you can't, I'm just kind of bummed out by. But if you're someone who doesn't care about that, you just want to see your numbers in real time, then this is probably going to work really well for you. When it comes to the other modes, like closest to the pin and putting, kind of the same story. It's very bare bones. There's not a whole lot you can do outside of select what you want your distance to the pin to be or what you want your putting distance to be. And then for instance, with putting, it'll keep track of the putts that you made, but you're not gonna be able to go back and see, okay, I left these ones short or I left these ones long, or see where all of those ended up. So it seems like there's a little bit lacking there. The good news is I know that the company is really invested in this product, and this is definitely something that can be fixed with the software update down the road. One thing I will note when it comes to using the Square is the zone where it's going to recognize the ball is relatively small, and it took me a while to really figure out exactly where it needed to go. There's also a slight delay when you're moving the ball and trying to kind of find that zone. There is a nice visual indicator that comes up while you're doing it, and once you kind of get into a session or you put a mark on the ground where it is, it's really not too big of a deal, but it definitely did take me a while to find that sweet spot. That being said, this becomes a little bit more annoying when you're playing a simulated round, if you need to move it so that you can put it on a tee, or if you're playing golf with both left and right-handed golfers, then this is a little bit tricky because you're constantly going to have to be moving it from one side to the other. But really, this is a downside of pretty much any optical launch monitor. So if you are planning to play a lot of golf with people that are both right and left-handed, you might want to consider a Doppler unit or an overhead unit because it's going to be a lot easier for you guys to play together. Hey, real quick, is this useful for you? Then maybe just hit the subscribe button. That way when I do my next video, when I talk more about accuracy or do direct comparisons to some competing products, you're not gonna miss it. I'll wait. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Let's get back to the video. All right, the big question you're probably wondering is accuracy. How good is this unit at $699? And I do want to preface this, I have yet to put this up against a TrackMan or do any kind of technical accuracy data. My initial impressions are it's actually really good. Like, it was better than I expected it to be. One thing to note is that if you do want club data, you're gonna have to add a sticker that is included with the unit to the shaft of your club. Some people will like this more than other units, which have little dots that you actually put on the club face. Overall, I found this to work really well, and I don't really have any complaints about it. Going back to accuracy, like I said, I've actually been really impressed. So if you watched my video from a few months ago, you know that I'm going through some swing changes. So I'm spending a lot of time practicing what I'm supposed to be doing versus what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And this is exactly what I did with the square. And all the numbers pretty much matched up exactly how I expected them to. When I'm hitting my 7-iron, which is typically my 150 club, there's still a big slice and I lose a whole bunch of distance on it. But when I adjust, when I make sure that I'm not coming over the top, when I update my grip, I'm now getting the ball to go left, and it's adding about 20 yards of carry. This is exactly what I found with my lesson when I was with Me and My Golf. This is what I found on the TrackMan, and the square has backed up those same numbers. I wish right now I could show you a dispersion chart of the difference between me hitting with my old swing, going to the right, with my new swing, carrying further, going to the left. But like I said, this is one of the drawbacks of the square where it doesn't save that data. I was also impressed because it really didn't seem to miss that many shots, maybe 1 or 2 out of 10, and usually what would happen is it would still give me ball data, but for some reason it wouldn't recognize club data. But in my experience, that's been pretty few and far between, and it's no worse than what I've seen with other launch monitors. Okay, now let's talk about simulator golf, and honestly, this is one of the biggest selling points to this particular unit because not only do they have built-in simulator options, but it's compatible with both GS Pro, E6, and even Awesome Golf. So regardless of what simulator software you like, there is an opportunity to use it here with no added subscription from Square. This is huge considering most brands, especially other optical brands like SkyTrack, Unicore, and Bushnell, Foresight, they're all going to charge you an annual subscription fee just to be able to use a third-party piece of software. So for instance, if you want to use the Foresight GC3S, it's $37.99 now. You have to pay a $500 a year subscription, and then you have to pay $250 on top of that for the annual GS Pro license. So using that device as an example, you're paying $3,800 up front, and then you're paying $750 a year to play GS Pro. With this, you pay $699, you pay GS Pro $250, and that's it. You're good to go. So while yes, it's not exactly apples to apples, the G3S is a professional unit. This is definitely not a professional unit, but you can get 80% of the simulator experience that's gonna be accurate enough for most people for a fraction of the price, and that is really compelling. Out of the box, if you wanna play simulated golf within the Square app, there are 10 courses included. Unfortunately, none of these are real courses, which is kind of a bummer, but what do you expect for $699? The experience playing these courses overall is really solid. Yes, it does feel a little bare bones at times because you can only use this on iOS or Android and not a higher end PC. The graphics are solid, but they're not like mind-blowing 4K graphics or anything like that. But it really does allow you to have a solid simulator experience. On top of that, this does track putts, which most units in this price point don't do. Putting on it is actually fine. You can do it if you want. I still don't recommend it. I think that putting on a golf simulator pretty much across the board isn't worth it, but the option is there should that be something you want to do. There is one slight caveat to all this though. While the Square doesn't have a subscription per se, you do have to buy credits if you wanted to play simulated golf within their app. So the way this works is it's 1 credit per hole, and you get 1,000 credits when you buy the unit. So this works out to somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 rounds before you have to actually go and pay for them. Now, I'm not gonna lie, for me personally, mentally, I like what I call the season pass mentality. I like to be able to just pay for something and not think about how much I'm going to use it. So let's say I pay an annual subscription. Say it were $199. Cool, I pay that once, I forget about it, and then I just go play. Whereas with this, I tend to think about it more, where it's like, oh, every single hole, I'm paying, every single hole, like keep going. Now really, that's just a mental hurdle that I have to get over because I think for most people, for the amount that you are likely to use this credit system is going to work out to be far cheaper than any subscription would be. So I think for most people, this is actually a really good thing and a good way of doing it. You're only paying for what you're using, as opposed to paying for a subscription, only using it half a dozen times, forgetting you have it, and then getting automatically re-upped a year later after you've forgotten about it. So this is definitely unique in the world of golf simulators and launch monitors, but I think it's a model that a lot of people could learn from. Hey, real quick, if you're thinking about buying the Square unit, I recommend you do it from playbetter.com. They're the ones that sent me this unit to review. They have awesome customer support, 2-day shipping. I've had such a good experience working with them over the years. And why I like buying some products like this through them is because if you have any customer support issues, often it's a lot easier to work with them than it is with the manufacturer, especially considering Square is a UK company. So if you're in the US, that might cause you some problems. So anyway, I've had a great experience with PlayBetter, and I think you should check them out. All right, so now let's talk about accessories and some of the things that come with the Square Launch Monitor. Because like I said in the beginning of the video, there's a lot that comes with this. You get a lot for $699. You're getting more than what you get with most launch monitors, and in some cases that's good, and in some cases maybe not. So let's talk about what you get. So first up, you get a sleeve of Square golf balls. So these are special golf balls with dots on them so that it can track your spin accurately. You can also use the special launch monitor TaylorMade TP5 golf balls, but as of right now, those are the only two ones that are going to give you that enhanced accuracy with spin data. I actually found these balls to feel really good, really soft, and the spin data that it gives you seems to be in line with what I would expect, but in a future video, I will do a more technical review. I will say it's worth mentioning that these balls do get beat up pretty quickly. In just a couple sessions, this definitely is very dirty. It feels like it's been through the ringer. So while for the most part that's not going to affect the data, you might want to pick up a couple extra sleeves if you're planning on using them frequently. The Square also comes with the remote, which is a nice touch, so you can easily pull it out, switch what club you're using, and things like that. So if you're setting this up at home, for instance, I would generally recommend you use a tablet versus your phone. So when you set up your iPad, for me, it's kind of sitting right there. That's where I'm looking at my data. It's frankly a lot easier for me to just go to the screen and do what I want to do on that versus using the remote, but that's just me. It's a nice added bonus and something that's convenient to have. So going on to accessories, one thing that's kind of unique about this is the fact it has a removable battery. Most devices like this, battery's internal, you just charge it. It says the battery is rated for up to 8 hours. I'm gonna be honest, most of the times I've used it, I've forgotten to charge it. And so it's like, oh man, I gotta go out and use it, charge it for 45 minutes, hope for the best. So if you even watch some of my clips, you'll see that there's a low battery indicator that's been flashing on the screen. But on a full charge, I'm sure 8 hours is great. I suppose in a lot of ways, this is nice. If you wanna get a second battery, you're able to do that to make sure that you're always going to have juice. But the way you charge it is by putting it in, and then there's a USB-C cord right here. I assume that if you get a long USB-C cord, you plug it into the wall, you set it up, you can use this with constant power that way, but I haven't tested that, so I don't know for sure. And finally, the last accessory that you get that comes with this is the swing stick. And so essentially what this is going to allow you to do is play simulated golf or play on the driving range without actually having to hit a ball. So for me, in my office here, for instance, I've only got 8.5 foot ceilings, so it's not conducive to setting up a proper simulator. But if I wanted to, I could use the swing stick and play a full simulated round of golf right here in my office. However, I don't know that I would do that. While this is a great idea in theory and it's a cool additional thing to have, I just haven't found it to really feel like I'm actually playing golf. The way the weight is, even though there's something inside there that kind of simulates the feeling of hitting a ball, the way the weight is, when I'm coming through my shot, it just doesn't feel right. And so I end up actually just kind of adjusting the way that I swing to compensate for this. And I think for me personally, it might cause more issues with my swing than actually helping me. But I know there are a lot of similar devices out there. Some people love them, so the fact it's included and it makes using this a lot more portable. You could theoretically like take this on a trip and play simulated golf in your hotel room, which is kind of cool. But for me, I just don't know that I'm going to use this as much, and I would have loved to see this as like an a la carte option. So charge $50 less for the unit, charge $50 for this for people that want it, and that seems like it would have been the better move, but a unique thing to offer with your launch monitor. There's definitely no other company out there that's offering anything like this with their units. Okay, so with all that said, should you buy the Square Launch Monitor? And honestly, probably yes. Like, if this ticks all the boxes that you're looking for and you're just wanting to know, like, is it worth it? Is it good? The short answer is yes. Like, for what it is, for $699, this is an awesome unit. Does it have its drawbacks? Absolutely. Fact you can't use it outside. Big one. Fact that build quality, materials, feel pretty cheap, like that's gonna be a knock for a lot of people. The biggest thing for me personally is the software. The fact that I can't go back and get all of that data, see it, sort it, get dispersion charts, like that for me is a big miss. And that's why I would personally probably lean towards the Rapsodo MLM2 Pro, because the app experience really is like 1, 2, maybe even 3 steps above the built-in app for Square Golf. And then if you want to go even further, the Mevo Plus just takes things to a whole new level. But at that point, you're getting close to like 3 times the price of this. So that's kind of a different conversation. If you don't care about the practice and the data and all the launch monitor side of things, and you just want an inexpensive way to go out and play GS Pro, this is it. The fact this is compatible with GS Pro for this price and gives you pretty rock solid data, like there's not really anything that can compare with that right now. So if that's your use case, then by all means, you should go pick this up. So honestly, overall, I'm very impressed with the Square, maybe more so than I was expecting to be in terms of accuracy, usability standpoint. Definitely disappointed with the app, definitely disappointed with the build quality, but overall, for the price, it is an incredible value. My name is Sean Ogle. I'm the founder of this thing here at Breaking 80, where we talk about cool golf products and cool golf courses. If you got some value out of this, maybe consider hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, do all those things. If you're still not sure which golf launch monitor is right for you, go take our 30-second quiz. You're going to answer a few questions about what you were looking for, and I'm going to give you my best recommendation based on your needs. So that link is right there below. I think you're going to find it super valuable. With that, I hope you have an excellent day, and we'll see you on the next video.